If you watched the video yesterday, some of it was shot by our next guest, Steve Silva from Boston.com. And I think when it first happened, and people, even the runners, thought that the explosion was maybe part of the Boston Marathon. Remember Rick Pitino when Louisville won the national championship and you heard that explosion and he flinched as he's going over to shake John Beilein's hand, the Michigan head coach. Now, you had people who had their iPhones on or iPad or their earbuds. They're listening to music. They don't know what's happening. They're just seeing smoke there. And some of these runners were like, is it a celebration? Because that's not what happens at the Boston Marathon. But I wanted Steve to come on and give us a sense of really what this marathon is all about to bring the world into Boston here for a moment. And Steve joins us now. Steve, how are you today?
I'm doing okay, Dan, as best we can here.
Give us an idea of where you were, what you were doing at the time when you heard the explosion.
Sure, I was shooting video for Boston.com. I do a finish line compilation video, which means I stand out there for 5 to 6 hours trying to shoot as much as I can, getting the runners with the hopes of just getting scenes, people doing cartwheels over the finish line or doing push-ups or, marriage proposals, that kind of lighthearted stuff. So I was out there at that time at 250, and that's when, there were still 9,000 runners out in the course. And that's when you start seeing a lot of the people running for charity, all the money raised in this town. More than half the runners almost are out there supporting charitable endeavors, and it's their families that are lined up along Boylston Street at that point, waiting for them to come across. So I was just shooting straight on, right, standing smack in the center of the finish line, waiting for some moment, and then boom went the flash and the smoke and the dull thud. And like you just said, for a split second, I thought, geez, this part of is it like famous runners like the Hoyts, Ricky and Dick Hoyt coming through? I was waiting on them. I said, is this some celebration of someone I wasn't aware of? Something like when we were at Patriots games and the muskets fire off after a touchdown. It had that sort of sound to it, but escalated at a much amplified and a much louder level. So I just reacted and just started to get close to this thing. And as you got closer, you saw the smoke spread into the course. And there was silence at the beginning, and as you got close to it, and then 12 seconds later, we get the second explosion, another block up on the corner of Boylston and Fairfield, and that's when we immediately knew it's a terrible attack. And then as I got closer to the sidewalk and saw the bloody scene, it was real clear what was happening.
I noticed that when you're shooting your video, you eventually realized what was going on at your feet, and you panned up. You actually were shooting up instead of down. You're shooting buildings in the smoke. I don't want to do the gory details, but your feeling of that, you had to have some kind of something that clicked in that said, "Don't shoot this." Why?
Yeah, I got close, and I wasn't, for a portion of that time the camera's running, I'm not even paying attention to where the camera is shooting, but I definitely knew I wasn't going to make a conscious effort to get right up on the rail and pan the camera over bodies and blood and see body parts and see the things that I saw with my eyes with the camera. I just didn't think that was necessary. I wouldn't want that to be a family member of mine that was in that situation to be forever chronicled as being part of a horrific event. So I tried to get close, tried to capture the scene as best I could, tried to stay in the moment, tried to keep the video rolling. And, second thought, hindsight, today we're talking about, investigations in focus, and you're second-guess yourself and say, gee, why didn't I run up Boylston Street, panning the camera to the sidewalk? Maybe I could have caught something. So I've still got to go back to the Globe. I've got about 8 minutes of footage and footage before that I think people want to see. They want to get my camera card. So after this, I've got to head back in.
Where are you now?
I'm right at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Street, where all the media is set up here. Boylston is closed down still. In fact, I'm standing right next to a person of the military and a police captain in full SWAT gear by the Taj Hotel here. So this area is just still an active crime zone. It's high amounts of security down here.
Have you heard from the FBI about your video? Have you talked to anybody who wants that?
I haven't yet, but I got a message from the home base that said we need to get your camera card in here for a number of reasons. I imagine that's probably one of them.
Well, Steve, we appreciate your time. Thank you for the work you did yesterday.
You got it, Jim.
All right, Steve Silva, Boston.com producer. And I saw the video, and, you go into automatic pilot. I can only imagine what that would be like, that the people who are trained to do that, you go in, you move closer as others run away. And some of the footage there, you could tell that what he had at his feet was not going to be shown on camera. Did not need to be shown on camera. And the crowd at the end of that race, because everybody's gathering there. And if you're about 4 hours into a marathon, that's where you get the good stories, the feel-good stories, because the elite runners are already done. This is where you get somebody who's running for a cause, for a person. And the fact that you had those parents from Newtown, with what they went through, just, I can't imagine. I can't even get my arms around that. That you're there in the VIP section where one of these pipe bombs went off. And you welcome them there because there were 26 victims in Newtown, and they were going to honor each victim each mile. They had shirts, banners. It was a celebratory mood. That's what a marathon is. Think of all the sporting events we have. It's the one that brings us together. You're running next to somebody from another state, another country. They could be older, younger, man, woman, child. The marathon is, it's a celebratory mood where you can take everybody from around the world and make them feel like they're part of a community. And that's really what hits home here.